Early reviews hovering around launch have pointed out that Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is pretty much Far Cry with blue people, as it is an Ubisoft title thrown into the fictitious universe of Pandora from James Cameron's Avatar movies. And while on the surface, that's exactly what it is. But I'm proud to say after flicking the sticks on the PS5 version of this game, I was pleasantly surprised that even the somewhat stale Ubisoft formula, that open world gameplay loop that we know and are starting to get a little bit sick of because it hasn't been revamped or refreshed in about 10 years, that core gameplay loop does exist. However, the movement's a lot more like Mirror's Edge, as you do have free flow motion, kind of a parkour system, as you can run through plants and huff their spores up your nostrils to make you run faster. All that really needs said is if you're a fan of the movies or a fan of that Far Cry gameplay loop, for better or worse, then you're going to enjoy this game. And if you're a fan of both, you're really going to enjoy this game. Now, it's not perfect, as I ran into a couple of issues, but honestly, they were so minute that it didn't affect my experience of the playthrough. And when I pictured an Avatar game, a good Avatar game, just like for the longest time we've pictured having a good Harry Potter game, finally got it with Legacy. But what's most important here is this is fun. I had a great time playing this game. Movement's very fast and snappy, and riding majestic beasts through the trees and pulling back the string on a bow. But just a quick summary of what this game is. It's played in first-person perspective. That was a little bit disappointing. I was hoping that you could pop it into third person, kind of like we see with Bethesda titles like Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series. However, that really hasn't been an Ubisoft trick up the sleeve, so I don't know why I expected to see it here. That would have been really cool though. And let me clarify, I don't mean the whole game in third person view. I mean being able to swap between the two like a Bethesda title. I think that'd make more sense because you could cosmetically see the upgrade to your avatar's gear. And along those lines, this game, Ubisoft just refuses to learn, actually has a paid cosmetic store, which in a game like this is absolutely pointless considering it's first person. So the only way you're going to see your cosmetics is if you look down at your feet. And there is no traditional multiplayer, just co-op with a buddy. So maybe one of your friends can see what you look like. And they're pretty expensive too. And all the cosmetics, I honestly believe, should just be in the game as unlockables for playing it. I've already spent $70. Why spend more for cosmetics in a first-person, not multiplayer game? But it was explained during multiple developer interviews that this game had to be in first-person view because it is freakishly immersive into the environment of Pandora, which is something I'll touch on in just a tick, because it really is, not only in the graphic design, but specifically the audio design, as each plant around you has a specific audio source, as opposed to just playing a random 7-minute ambient environmental MP3 file looped over in the background. It's not like that. Each plant that you cross is going to make a different noise out of different parts of your speakers or headphones. It's pretty sick. Now, this game is purchasable on PS5, Windows PCs, and Xbox Series S and X. Checking on Steam Deck support right now. It's a long time to switch between desktop mode and the SteamOS mode. Oh, that was loud. It was right in my right ear canal. I will say the Switch OLED, which I just reviewed and does have 38 upgrades or revisions over the original LCD version, does boot load games about 30 to 50% faster and also resumes them quicker when you suspend them. That review is linked in the description below. It's super sick. Okay, we're gonna go to the store. We are gonna search for Avatar. Well, it's not even showing up on here. Now, if you do purchase this on the PC side of the house, you are going to be going through Ubisoft's front-end launcher, as this does not have Steam support, which also means that you're not going to be playing this on a Steam Deck unless you're running Windows on that bad boy as well. But if you do have a Windows 10 or 11 handheld PC, something like the ROG Ally or Lenovo Legion Go, both reviewed on the channel, then you'll have no issue here. Well, let me retract that back. You will be able to launch this game. You will probably be at very low settings. But along those lines, I will say the graphical settings scale very nicely to where even when you taper back the resolution and all the graphical settings to medium or low, the game still looked very pretty. And I don't just mean on a small screen because of the pixel density. Even on a bigger monitor in low settings, it still looked very good. As for other titles, you put it in low and you're looking at PS2 graphics, but you're just lucky to get it running on your baked potato PC. And this is a $70 title. Expensive, but it's kind of the going rate for new AAA titles. Now, I did pay $50 for RoboCop Rogue City, which is a new game. $70 for Avatar over here. That's kind of the norm. Not happy about it, but that's what we spend on games nowadays. Now, as far as the development cycle, this game was announced in March of 2017, but the game was officially titled The Frontiers of Pandora with a nice little juicy trailer at E3 of 21. And the game released today, December 7th, 2023, across all 3 platforms. Technically 4, because they do mention that it has Amazon Luna support, part, but whom is the one or two individuals playing this on Amazon Luna? You're going to take control of a Na'vi orphan who's been raised and trained as a human soldier from the RDA, or Resources Development and Administration. If you didn't know what the RDA is, you do now. But in the first scene where you're going to go through the tutorial and learn the controls and the gameplay mechanics, your character's suspended in animation, then woken up 15 years later in a semi-abandoned facility. And that's when you take to the world of Pandora. You take off on a massive journey across the western frontier, which is a region never before seen in the James Cameron movies. Now, I will say it does look identical to the Pandora that you know and love from the movies, but it is a different region and you are going to see some new landmarks that you're not accustomed to, which is another nice little point. If you're a big fan of the back lore and the world of Avatar, you're in that fiction, then this gives you another piece of the puzzle as you're going to see another part of that world of Pandora, a new frontier, if you will. But as you explore this new region, you're going to discover the origins of the local Na'vi tribes and help them to fight back against the RDA as they attempt to exploit the natural resources of the new western frontier. Pretty much the premise of the first movie, and kind of the second movie because they get pushed out of their homeland by the RDA for resource farming. So because it's handled like this, the story is partially tied in with the back lore of the movies, but it is its own standalone. So exactly like Hogwarts Legacy, where you're not going to see the tyrannical trio or any of the professors that you know, because it is in a different time period, hundreds of years apart from the movies, but you still have all that juicy lore that you know and love from the Avatar movies. Graphically, this game really impressed me. I don't really expect a whole hell of a lot from the Far Cry series because it hasn't really been balls to the wall, cornea popping graphical performance. However, I think this game is really pushing the Snowdrop engine to its maximum, as it does look very good graphically. And along those lines, when you're going through the character creator, which I will say is pretty basic, doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of selection, and not to sound like an ignorant bigot and say that all blue people look alike, but a lot of the character creation selection does look very similar. You're just going to be adjusting cheekbones by a couple of millimeters and changing from light skin blue to dark skin blue, stuff like that. I'm a mixed blue avatar myself. But along the lines of graphics, you have these little luminous dots all over your skin, which I thought, it's not going to make much of a big difference because in the character creator, you can barely see those little dots. However, as soon as you play the initial sequence, you realize that those little dots pretty much glow. They're lit up like the roof of a Rolls Royce. So take your time in the character creator, despite the fact there isn't a whole hell of a lot of selections, and they do look very similar because those little glowing dots and stripes on your skin do appear more in the actual game than in the character creator, where they don't make much of a difference at all. But graphically, I immediately noticed that the lighting was on par. This game does support a slew of visual tweaks, including ray tracing, ultra-wide monitor support, AMD FSR2, NVIDIA DLSS or Deep Learning Super Sample, and other PC features. So this has all the graphical tweaks that you would expect, and also settings-wise, there is a ton of accessibility features, low visibility modes. If you have some kind of a disability or limitation, you can probably counteract that in the settings here, which is great, allowing gamers that wouldn't be able to use this game the access to it. But along those lines, there's a ton of controller settings. I was able to taper back my dead zones, increase my sensitivity, mildly increase my field of view, and everything else that I wanted to do. So a lot of tweaks in the settings, and I like to see that. This is the first third-party game that for me is on the same level as a first-party Sony Interactive Entertainment title when it comes to the features of the DualSense controller. So the haptic feedback vibration, not only incredibly accurate, but also peak strength, and you feel everything from the crackling of fire to your feet on different surfaces of the forest, firing the bow. Every surface feels different. It's fantastic. Also, the adaptive triggers get used quite heavily as you have this mini game to pick fruit where you have to squeeze them about halfway, then pull back the left analog stick, and then pull the trigger all the way. It actually happens in like a matter of a second, but you definitely feel those adaptive triggers getting stiffer or lighter depending on the action on screen. So that's great that a third-party title is taking advantage of those features as much as first-party titles. As for the gameplay loop, I generally separate combat. However, it's all going to be into one section, gameplay/combat. It is definitely that Ubisoft open world formula. If you played a Far Cry game, then you're very similar to how this game's going to play out, although there's new mini games introduced, such as the way that you harvest fruit, where you actually have to hold the trigger at a certain spot and then twist around with the 6-axis motion sensing in order to twist and break that fruit loose off the stem. Stuff like that's super immersive. I also do like the fact that you can just basically faith dive off of a cliff, and while you're free falling, summon your mount to rescue you before you splat. And despite the fact this does have that classic Ubisoft formula, which can get a little bit stale and repetitive, although I still enjoy it in most Far Cry games, it's a lot fresher here. And it's not just because it's got a cosmetic facelift that you're a 9-foot tall blue person and you have a flying mount and it's a completely different environment. Yes, that all adds to it, but like I said, things like harvesting fruit, as small and minuscule as that might sound, things like the audio design being incredibly immersive, the movement is snappy and crisp. And as much as I love RoboCop Rogue City, in fact I said it was one of the best aim trainers of 2023, because you're locked to a brisk walk in that game, whenever I need a little movement fix, I can jump over to Avatar Avatar and get avatarded. That's an official term for when you're a massive fan of the Avatar franchise. But the entire game, you're discovering the Na'vi's back lore, how to be a Na'vi tribes person, how to be one with the environment, how to make that connection with your mount. You know, all the things that Jake Sully had to do in the first movie. But I just want to touch on some of the combat mechanics, things I like and things I don't like. First of all, there's only 4 Na'vi weapons, which are pretty basic, and I did crave a little bit more weapon variety, although you can also pick up RDA assault rifles, which is pretty sick. There is no ADS or aim down sights, so it just kind of zooms in the screen a little bit. Nice little flashback to 10 years ago. Maybe we can tie it in with the lore. Because of the Na'vi cheekbones, you can't get a good seal on the stock of your rifle, and that's why you can't aim down sights or something. I don't know. 2023, you should be able to aim down sights. Also, the combat's relatively easy at normal difficulty, although I did die pretty frequently. I know I just said it's super easy, but each time I died, it was to something kind of stupid. I know that just sounds like making excuses, get better, bro, but silly. Like, I'd just be run down by like 3 mechanoid suits, and there was no real hard piece of cover to take. But the key to combat here is definitely going to be the movement. Since you are a Na'vi, you're much quicker than the RDA. You can slide around them to get to the weak points on the mech suits, drill it with your bow. Also, setting explosive traps is a great trick. Also, if you want to double up on the fun, this game does support co-op, and it is cross-platform supported by default, so whether you're on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, you can play with your buds, but there are some limitations to this co-op multiplayer. The first one, and the biggest in my opinion, is the fact that it is not going to be local couch co-op, so no split screen support. It is going to be multiplayer, and you don't have access to it right off the gate. You will see an option for it, but if you click on it, nothing's going to happen. You and your partner are going to need to play solo for a while, just a few missions until you both completed, I'm going to butcher this, the RNE clan quest, which does take a couple of hours to complete. Basically why this is you're in small tutorial mode sandbox until you hit the Irani clan mission, which opens up the open world to you where you can start exploring everything. But some more limitations are going to be the fact that neither you or your partner can pause the game, so there is no stopping of time while you're in co-op mode. And this is pretty standard, but the progression and saves are going to be based on the host of the game. And it doesn't really seem like damage is scaled, so it does make it substantially easier to be playing with a buddy because you guys can both be putting down DPS or damage per second on enemies, and it's not going to scale or make enemies harder. So if you do want an easier experience of whipping through this game, you and your buddy can just rip through the enemies. Also, the Hunter's Log will mention that not every item can be taken back to the group member's game while playing in co-op, although it's pretty vague as to what items are excluded. I really would have liked that this game had local couch co-op, however, that's pretty much a dying relic in gaming. Even series, franchise that have stuck to that foundation like glue, for example, Halo. Look at the last couple titles, we have not had split screen co-op. And whether that's that less gamers care about couch co-op because online multiplayer is more of a thing, or it's just that developers realize, well, it's pretty taxing to have to split the screen like that, 2 images of the game running, it's a lot of work, and we're already so far behind all the time, crunch time, if you will. Yeah, local co-op is like not even a thing anymore, which is really sad because it is some of the best gaming experiences I've had over the last 3 decades. No moss, you're online multiplayer or you're going at it Han Solo there, bud. As for the soundtrack, you can enjoy such bops such as Take Flight, The Wildwoods, Battle of the Sky, and When Flutes Call. I realize I just threw some words at you that have no meaning, but if you've seen the Avatar movies, it's very similar to that ambient music where it's going to be building in the orchestral chords, the emotion of you digging your blue toes into the moss, the algae, and feeling your environment. It's good. I had no complaints with the soundtrack. As for the audio design, because I do have a lot of positive things to say here, as opposed to just an audio track that runs in the background. So one long recorded track, maybe 17 minutes long, that just loops over and over a background noise. So you hear the same birds cawing in the background, the same wind rustling through the same tree, the same armadillo taking the same dump in the same foliage. That is not going to be the case in Frontiers because each plant is its own individual audio source, and I haven't really heard of any other games doing this. To me, it sounds a lot like Dolby Atmos, where it's object-based positional surround sound, where instead of just typical 5.1 or 7.1 channel split, it's actually object-based or item-based, where a plant or a gun or somebody's boots can produce their own sound source. So depending on how far you are and also the angle, you're going to have positional sound. And yeah, some games implement this, not like this. I've never really been immersed audio-wise like this before, and that includes with headsets, surround sound, or, God forbid, even out of the built-in speaker of a monitor or TV, which you'd be better off popping in some $18 Skull Candy earbuds to the bottom of your controller. You'd get a better audio experience. As for performance, I didn't notice any bugs or glitches thus far. Again, I don't have a whole hell of a lot of stick time. I will do a long-term ownership review down the road, and I will touch more in detail on things like performance, although I will mention here there is, of course, a favor performance and a favor quality video mode. Quality is going to be be at 30 frames per second. Performance is going to be at 60. And in a game that's based on Far Cry's bones, so a first-person shooter, you definitely want to favor performance. And I will say the game Pandora still looks beautiful in the performance mode, a little bit less graphically appealing, but not by much. And you're doubling your frame rate to 60, which is pretty consistent even when the action on screen was thickening up and there was a bunch of explosions and multiple enemies moving on screen. There wasn't any lag or chug or frame rate dips that I could see to my naked corneas. But unfortunately, replayability wise, I think this title falls a little bit flaccid in comparison to previous Ubisoft titles, primarily the Far Cry series, as the main story is going to take you around 12 to 15 hours, the main story and most of the side content around 25 hours. And if you're trying to complete everything, you want to get that 100% and platinum that be, you're looking at about 35 to 40 hours. And that's if you're really exploring every nook and cranny of Pandora. So not a lot of playtime here. And while you do have multiplayer, it's not like a separate multiplayer mode. It is a co-op experience of the single player story, which is cool and all, but that'd be cooler if there was local co-op, and it'd be cooler if the online multiplayer had different modes, like a free-for-all kind of thing. We don't have that yet, but that could be added down the road. But as of now, I will say replayability or into game, not great. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. The biggest problem with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and why it's going to be receiving a 6.5 from me as opposed to an 8.6, we've slipped on a banana peel here. Since the entire game you are playing as one protagonist, one Na'vi that you create, which by the way, you're not a titular, that's a very hard word to say. You're not a traditional avatar because you're not a human inside of a avatar body. You are a purebred born Na'vi who's been captured by the human TAP program and raised with the human ethics and morals and whatnot. And then you break out of that in your schoolhouse and you start exploring the world, the magical wonder of Pandora and whatnot. But here's the issue that I have and why this game doesn't get 2 additional points and make it such a stronger recommend for me is the fact that Ubisoft could have added a new gameplay mechanic where you play as the RDA, maybe not selecting 2 different characters, but just a couple of missions where you play as the RDA within their home base and you can control the mechanoid suits, which are a lot slower than the movement of the Na'vi, but have more powerful guns and are more tanky because you're in a mechanoid suit. If you look at the OG Avatar game, which I think dropped in 07 or 09, I believe it was, that actually allowed you to play as both factions and you had 2 very distinct types of gameplay. For example, I mentioned during my Alan Wake 2 review, you play as Saga Anderson, mostly in the woods, in the forest, solving mysteries in the mine place. And then with Alan Wake, you're mostly in the inner city, urban areas with neon glowing on the wet pavement, and you're riding to change the environment. So 2 different gameplay mechanics, 2 different environments. That could have been utilized here to where about 30% of the story could have been told through the view, the perspective of the RDA. That would have fleshed out the story to where you can see it from their perspective, kind of like what we saw with Last of Us 2, except implemented not as shittily. But more importantly than from a story or plot standpoint, that would have made the gameplay loop that much fresher and more interesting. Instead of playing as a big blue Na'vi for 25 hours straight, you could break it up with about 13 hours of human in a mechanoid suit style gameplay, or maybe flying their helicopters, different vehicles, different equipment that would have fleshed out not only the lore of the RDA and the Na'vis of Pandora, but also tied together the story a little bit better, which I will say isn't the strongest. It holds itself together, but there is no real passion or emotion there other than a couple of cutscenes. You're not going to be drooling like, oh god, I feel like I'm there right now. It's not that intense of a story, but luckily the gameplay does carry it. But the gameplay and story could have been substantially better by simply adding RDA missions where you are controlling humans inside of a mechanoid suit, which I originally thought the game would have, considering the OG game from years ago had that feature, had that mechanic. So as for the verdict, would I recommend Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Well, if you were a fan of the James Cameron Avatar movies, or you like the Ubisoft open world formula that we've been enjoying in the Far Cry games for years, then yes, you will like this game. If you enjoy both, like myself, then you're really going to enjoy this game. Is it perfect? No, there's going to be a couple of stagnant parts where you're just running around waiting to get to the human sections where you're like, I'd like to switch back to the other character now. Now, my personal recommendation for this game is going to be a little bit different if you are a big fan of the Avatar movies, or you're just a die-hard Far Cry fan and you're waiting for the next entry in the series. This will kind of supplement until then. If you fall into either one of those 2 camps, I will say you'd be satisfied at the $70 recommended price. If not, and you're just kind of looking at this game from afar thinking, yeah, that looks kind of fun, I could take it or leave it, I would wait for this game to go on sales. I think it will in the near future, as it's not a first-party title, and it has had somewhat mixed reviews. I'd say they're more on the positive side of the house. IGN 7 out of 10, Game Informer 7.7 out of 10, Game GameSpot, 8 out of 10. There are some low boys in there like Shaq News, who I've never heard of before, with 5 out of 10. They're smoking that Shaq and that crack. And then of course you've got your unverified user scores up here with Metacritic and OpenCritic. Even for movies, I'm so hesitant to even take a stern glance at a Metacritic score, considering you don't even have to actually play the game or watch the movie in order to grade that. It's not like a Steam verified review where it shows you this person has 77 hours in this game. So you have a little bit of validation towards their opinion, like it actually matters. The people throwing up reviews on Metacritic might have just heard from their favorite content creator, Asmongold, doing a commentary, or Charlie or Mudahar talking shit on a specific game, and then run over to Metacritic and just pile drive a game into dust. Does that happen with games frequently? Yes. Is that happening here with OpenCritic, whatever the hell this is? Yeah, for sure. Metacritic? No, I'd say that's pretty fair scores there. A 73 out of 10. This game really is about a 7.5 out of 10. That's pretty accurate in my book. But thus far, I'm really enjoying my experience. Granted, that's an early experience. This is my initial impressions review. I might give you a long-term ownership review down the road where I talk about completionist stuff. After I beat the game, what did I do end game-wise? If you're a fan of Far Cry or a fan of Avatar, you're gonna like this game. If you're not, but you're just thinking it might be a fun game to play to fill out your game library, probably wait a few months for this bad boy to go on sale, which I think it will. Comment section, tell me what you think of this game. And I'll see you Stallions and Stallionettes tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at GamerHeaven. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of GamerHeaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting GamerHeaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.